Love this day. Always have for many, many years. We'll recap all of week one. We'll look ahead to week two over the next 3 hours today on the show. Plus, we nearly had Armageddon in Survivor. A Monday Night Football preview a couple of times today on the program. I don't want to overreact is on the show today. The good, the bad, and the ugly as well. A lot of fun, Paulie, coming in here on a Monday morning early to look back at what happened in week one. And we'll start with kind of the NFC picture after last night's Sunday night debacle by the Giants as the Cowboys took them out by a score of 40-0. I mean, never even, right? The game, the cover, everything was over with pretty much in the first quarter. Just weird, though, right? Because the Giants are going down. If they don't botch that drive and they score a touchdown, maybe the result, at least the first half anyway, is completely different than what it looked like. But here, Dable comes out at halftime and says, well, can we put like a good play together back-to-back to get something going? And they never really could. This is how ugly it was last night overall in the game, right? When you look overall, the first time that a team basically lost 40-0, they also were out-turnovered 3-0 or worse. They were out-sacked 7-0. There were a bunch of other things that took place, and it all was in favor of the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are very, very, very good, obviously, and I think they have a chance to do that to a lot of teams this year, but the Giants might be bad. And to tie in what other teams did in the NFC, what the Niners did yesterday was incredible because the Steelers might be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that they had some injuries. Cam Hayward left the game. Deontay Johnson left the game for the Steelers. But that was another game that was never in doubt. And my God, did they look impressive. It was offensive. Offensively speaking, the receivers were always wide open. McCaffrey running for that many yards. And defensively, they don't let you breathe.
Giants weren't ready for prime time. And the Giants are now 0-8 against Dallas and Philly since December of 2021, and the average loss is by 19 points per game. And what you mentioned earlier, to lose the game like that, the sack battle, the turnover battle, a pick six with a field goal blocked and a return, that hadn't happened by one team in the same season, let alone the same game. And what happened? So that thing was school was out early, and the game was over in the first quarter. And as they said after the game, the Cowboys put the league on notice. Yes, they did. Well, with that performance, total domination, and they were fantastic. But all the talk last year was the frauds with the Vikings and the Giants, but certainly didn't work out for the Vikings. More on that coming up. But the Giants again, who'd you beat last year? And a horrible start to the season. What I find fascinating, to lose at home 40-0, they're going to probably be a top 3 pick in Survivor coming up because they take on Arizona.
Yeah, very well could be.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and the 49ers could be another team, even though that they're going to be on the road and they're laying 7 points against the Rams. My guess is that they're going to be very popular. I thought Brock Purdy got away like last year, right? People expected him to regress, come back to the norm, and eventually it was going to catch up with him. It did because he got hurt, not because of poor play. I thought he got away with a couple of passes yesterday or plays that were like, you can't do that this year. It's not going to happen. But he did yesterday again for the game. Overall, the numbers were excellent. And again, when it comes to slowing this team down offensively, like what do you want to do? Kittle did nothing in the game.
Yeah.
Kittle did nothing, and they won 30-7. Like, where was Deebo Samuel? Every time that he drops back to pass, again, he's going to have Samuel, Kittle, in theory, right, if these guys stay healthy, Brandon Ayuk, who played out of his mind yesterday, and then maybe McCaffrey out of the backfield as well. What's the game plan to slow them down? Mm-hmm. How do you do it? He was 19 of 20 for 220 yards, had the 2 touchdowns, and McCaffrey, overall, monster day, 150 yards.
Yep.
Plus.
Yep. Well, in a month on Sunday night, Dallas goes to San Francisco, a rematch of the playoff game. So I can't wait for that one. But it's also time to give Purdy his flowers. I mean, a guy, again, if in a game he's played 3 quarters, he hasn't lost. So all this while, I'm waiting for the regression. I mean, it's not happening. The kid's a stud. And it certainly helps you have all this talent and what they have on the roster. But again, the Yak, they were number 1 in Yak, and they just toyed with the Steelers. And watching that game, I would just say that's all about San Francisco. And I can't really knock Pittsburgh because I still think the Steelers can be a good team. But they went against a freight train yesterday.
Yeah, when we're comparing those two teams in the NFC from yesterday, I'm nitpicking here. I think the Giants, they might win 6-7 games. It'd be kind of bad, obviously. I'm not taking anything away from the Cowboys. I think talent-wise, they are absolutely one of the best teams with their roster in the entire league. But the Niners are number 1. I mean, they don't have the best player. That's Patrick Mahomes, but they have the best players overall. Nobody's roster in the NFL is better than San Francisco. I've been saying that same thing for a good 4 years now. Eagles are close. Cowboys are close, no doubt. Chiefs, some others as well. But that pass rush with Bosa back can get to anybody. And then you look at how Fred Warner was everywhere yesterday, leading the linebackers. And if the secondary can stay healthy, I don't know how you... They have everything. The one weakness, the one spot where you think, it might come back to haunt them this year could be the offensive line. But they blew apart a really good Steelers defense yesterday. Or what we think is going to be a really good Steelers defense yet again.
You never see that. I mean, again, when Watt was in there last year, they only allowed 17 points per game. And Pittsburgh couldn't even move the ball in garbage time. I mean, that's 27-7 a minute into the second half and somehow stays under. But again, nothing from Pittsburgh the rest of the way. What that was, wow. That performance deserved a standing ovation. I mean, last night you just say, well, the Giants were just historically bad. Everything we just ran down, giving them points and turning the ball over left and right, and the 2 defensive and special teams touchdowns. But, man, what a performance by the Niners.
Yep, and to tie it into the team that actually came out of the NFC last year, on the road yesterday in some weather, obviously. It was raining quite hard for a while as the Eagles were in New England, in Foxborough, to play the Patriots. They won the game. The Eagles did. They covered as well. I thought that it was a misleading score. I thought the Eagles were extremely fortunate to cover that game, let alone win it outright. They really didn't do anything in the game offensively. What we saw, Paulie, again, was a really good Patriots defense, and that's going to be there all year long. The issue is going to be, can they put it together enough offensively to score enough points to keep them in a bunch of games and then to win enough to be maybe a playoff contender? The pick six was just, I thought that was a fluke.
Yep.
And then you're down 16-0. You had to come, battle your way back, and you did. And it was 16-14 at one point. But they outgained the Eagles by more than 100 yards yesterday. I thought they were clearly the right side in a day in which they honored Tom Brady. But that's the tough part. This league, I mean, all the coin flips that it comes down to, if you had the Patriots, I thought that's a really bad beat yesterday.
Yeah, they were the better team. But the New England might be a good team, but they're looking at an 0-2 start right in the face. I mean, now they got Miami coming to town. So not only it could be 0-2, but 0-2 at home. But the bottom line is 25-27 now since Brady left. That's the big story. And the turnovers were silly. Certainly looked like a capable offense, though. The 180 from last year, so that was great. Bringing in O'Brien. They also played with tempo as well, but they handed him the game. I mean, the pick six, when they're driving, you had to have Zeke, didn't you? Had to pick up Zeke, right?
Of course.
Drop, puts it on the ground. That also leads to points, but very concerned by Philly. Got out of there alive, but they were fortunate to win. New England had red zone issues. It seemed like they were living in Philadelphia territory for much of the game. Philly gets the stop late. They also had a defensive stand after Hurts had the fumble deep in his own territory. But Elliott was a stud. I mean, he was a big reason they won that game, too. In those conditions, to hit all those field goals, and especially the bomb from 56.
Not Zeke, the other one. The kicker.
Right, thank you. Yeah, very good. But Goddard was visibly frustrated.
Yeah.
Hurts didn't play well. But you won't apologize for the win. But it's a tough way to start the season for the Patriots with their schedule, and they could be 0-2, both losses at home.
Yeah, and now the Eagles fast forward to Thursday night.
Yep.
That number opened up 7 against the Vikings, bet up to 8 at some spots, now hovering around 7.5, getting a Vikings team that they absolutely took apart in Week 2 last year at home. Here's the thing. If you go back to Thursday night when the Lions went to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, home teams now in Week 1, only 5-10 straight up and 3-12 ATS. Not a single home team won a game in the afternoon to the evening window last night. How about that?
Strong.
0 for 6 when you go afternoon games and then the Giants and the Cowboys.
That is wild. And the start, which I should have seen this coming, where you think people who don't play a lot of starters in the preseason or their stars. We started the season 8-1 to the under with all the games. And what happened?
I'm not going to lie. The early games, it was ugly.
Yeah.
The early games were vile and nasty yesterday.
That bad, you thought?
Oh, yeah, I mean, when you go back and look offensively, what teams did, a lot of sloppy. Look, Lamar Jackson, did he look awful.
No question. Yeah, Cousins was terrible, too.
Awful. Ryan Tannehill, take a seat on the bench, pal.
That's right. So 8 of the first 9 games stayed under, and in the early games, you only had one game. In the early session, only one game where over 40 combined points were scored.
Yeah. And the afternoon games were really, really good. I mean,
Yep.
The Chargers and the Dolphins game, just pretty much as good as it gets. 36-34 like that. And, I mean, it's an aerial circus with the Dolphins. They are just taking shots down the field on every single play, the way it seems. And Hill to go for 215 yards. The Chargers have a good secondary. Like, they have talent, but this has been the same thing with the team.
No, it's ridiculous.
For as long as we can remember.
I can't wait to talk to Lombardi. I mean, the Staley thing. Staley's a defensive guy. Why are they awful every year defensively? Come on.
Yeah.
He's a defensive guy. They can't stop anything. How do you let Hill get behind you over and over and over again?
Yeah, and how about this with the talk of Herbert this year? New offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, they're going to open it up.
Yes.
Actually, one game in, Herbert's numbers were worse yesterday in what they were last year in terms of how far he's going to throw it down the field.
They crushed him on the ground. I mean, they couldn't run the ball last year. That was a total 180.
Yeah.
They were gashing Miami on the ground.
Yeah, but in a shootout where 70 points are scored, you ran the ball 40 times, yet Herbert threw it 33 times. Just felt a little weird to me when Tua, you had no solution for Tua whatsoever.
Nope. How big was the Jackson play? What are you doing before halftime on the PI? You handed Miami 3 points.
You just gave it to him.
Ridiculous.
Here you go.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.